Welcome, everybody, to the Evolving Workplace podcast. My name is Alistair Avila, and I'm your host. I'm extremely excited to welcome all of you because today is actually our first episode. And I'd like to take a little bit of time introducing to you what the Evolving Workplace podcast is going to be all about, and to tell you a little bit about myself so that we can get to know each other a little better and why I've created this podcast. So I'll get started with that last piece. My name again is Alistair Avila, and I've worked in HR for the last 20 years in a variety of functions and industries. I actually started in the military here in the United States, working in the good old personnel office where we welcomed new hires to our base, and we processed their new hire paperwork. And I remember using typewriters back then, and how how long it took to process somebody. That was really basic work, but important work. And then after that, I got my degree in psychology and a master's in industrial and organizational psychology. So I'm an IO psych practitioner. And I ended up working in consultancy where I helped small and medium sized companies build very effective HR functions. And eventually I moved on to healthcare. And in healthcare, I've worked in talent acquisition as a talent acquisition leader. I've also worked in employee relations, and most recently for the last 7, 8, 9 years, or probably more, as an HR business partner supporting business units and strategic priorities. In addition to that, I've worked in organizational development where I have been in charge of designing and implementing talent management practices, from onboarding to development, initiatives, including training, hyper potential programs, et cetera, succession planning, and performance management. And I can't forget about employee engagement and how important that is. So I've worked in a variety of functions, and um, I think what I bring to the table is not just the experience, but a way of thinking about HR and leadership that is grounded on evidence. I have training also as a doctoral degree holder, where I became a practitioner scholar, right? Where I understand, evidence. I know how to interpret it and how to read it, and hopefully how to disseminate it, right? And that would be one of my goals of this podcast, is to provide you with information that is grounded on research and evidence. And evidence, by the way, it's not just research studies, but it's also practice. So it is important for me, it will be important for me to bring in not just researchers or consultants, but also practitioners in our field, which of course that would include HR leaders or operational leaders that have experience with the evolving nature of work. So, with that said, I hope to get to know you as well a little better by interacting with you through LinkedIn and through the various streaming channels that we'll have available for you, which we'll talk a little bit about in this podcast. So now let me tell you a little bit about why I created the Evolving Workplace podcast. Many years ago, I would say maybe 10 years ago to 12, 15 years ago, I had the idea of creating a way for people to talk about the evolution of work. So I created my own, URL handle called evolvingworkplace.com, and I used it, temporarily. And since then, I had this bug of, really delving into this topic and creating meaningful conversations for us to understand the evolving nature of work and how it impacts how we practice leadership and how we practice HR. So this podcast will very well be suited for people who are operational leaders, or employees of an organization that are curious about the evolving nature of work and how it's impacting us, and also HR practitioners. And I plan to have a voice for all of the different groups in this space. Now, having been in HR for the last 20 years, as many of you have, whether you're an HR practitioner or you work in an organization or you're an entrepreneur, you've seen a lot of change at in how we work, right? One of the most significant changes in the last 5 years, of course, is the advent of COVID-19, the epidemic. It impacted us in many distinct ways, and it's changed how we work in a significant way. And um, just to give you an example that we've all experienced in some way, shape, or form is, of course, the need for us to work remotely so that we could, at the time, we thought that was the best way to protect ourselves from becoming sick from the COVID-19 virus. And there were mandates that would not allow us to be in the same space. So organizations adopted uh, digital ways to communicate. We, bought Zoom or Teams, and we started communicating digitally. Each of us spent a lot of time in our homes with our families. Our kids went to school online as well. And at that time, it was something that was new for many organizations. Or other organizations had a lot of experience with remote work, but a great number of organizations didn't. And so at the time, we were challenged with understanding how we would be able to continue to be effective in what we did working remotely. And to be fair, a lot of organizations did not know whether we would be able to continue to be effective working remotely. And to the surprise of many, we realized that we were, right? And there are things that organizations did in order to address the challenge of working remotely, especially organizations that needed to be, more creative and needed to collaborate in an effective way. And where in the past they were used to do that in a physical space, now they had to understand how to do that remotely, right? So I think that's a great example of understanding the evolution of work and how that might impact the outcomes that are set in place that we're trying to strive for. And if we understand the impact or the potential impact of that and how that would work, then we can make decisions about how we want to manage work, practice leadership, and implement the right ways of doing HR practices in order to continue achieving our goals, right? And just to go back really quickly to the remote work, there are a lot of companies now asking people to come back to the office, um, and that is, it continues to be a hot topic of discussion. We know uh, through evidence and research that remote work actually has a very positive outcome on a variety of metrics that are important to organizations. Although it all, the devil's in the details, and a lot of this positive impact depends on those details. So, for example, when it comes to the impact of remote work on productivity, there is research that shows that productivity is increased by more than 10%. And that is usually true in knowledge work or individual work. But there are some other instances where productivity stays the same as people who work in the office. And that could be related to the type of technology you have, the expectations, the culture, and so on and on, right? So, understanding that it's important because ultimately what we want to do is that we want to make the right decisions for us to continue having the outcomes that we want. If we ask all of a sudden employees to come back to work and employee satisfaction, employee engagement goes down, and our retention, goes down as well, and people start leaving the organization, that obviously would be counterproductive if that's not what we want, right? So My hope with this podcast is to have conversations about all these topics that are impacting how we do work today. So we'll talk with researchers, we'll talk with consultants, we'll talk to operational leaders and HR leaders about how they are experiencing the world of work and what they're doing differently or would like to do differently in order to be effective. My goal for this podcast is to make sure that we can think smarter, lead better, and stay ready for what's ahead. So I hope that you join me in future podcasts and engage with us through LinkedIn or through our website called evolvingworkplace.com. And you also get to share the information that we put out there, and you give us feedback on how well we're doing in providing you with information that's important to you as leaders and employees. So I really look forward to connecting with you, and I wish you a great day. See you soon.